This is Greg Troutline with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're here today with Edward LeBlanc, the head of Marine Affairs Ørsted, to discuss Ørsted's growing offshore wind operations in the United States. Ed, to start us off, can you give us a brief career bio with insights on your responsibilities today at Ørsted?
Sure. Thank you, Greg. So I have been with Ørsted since 2019. Originally as the Northeast Marine Affairs Manager, and then fleeted up to head of Marine Affairs. And in that capacity, our fundamental mission in Marine Affairs is focused on navigation safety. We facilitate navigation safety, we preserve navigation safety, we enhance navigation safety for all of our stakeholders, both those that are external to Ørsted, that would be the current waterway users, and those that are internal to Ørsted, our own vessels, our own people that are at sea. To do that, I have a staff of 9 people. And for the previous 44 years before that, since I was an 18-year-old, I was with the U.S. Coast Guard.
Ed, the Ørsted name is very well known to this audience, but can you give a by the numbers look at the offshore wind and marine operations in the U.S. market today?
So for Ørsted, we have one operational project or facility, if you will, and that is the Block Island Wind Farm. We own and operate the Block Island Wind Farm, which is a small wind farm. It's only 5 towers, but it does supply electricity to the entire Block Island, and allowed Block Island to completely secure and shut down their diesel generator. So that's really a success story there. We have another project that's just beginning construction. That is the South Fork Wind Farm. That's a 12-tower wind farm that'll be off the coast of Rhode Island. And then we have about a half a dozen other projects in the Northeast and in the Mid-Atlantic that together represent about 5 gigawatts of electricity. So the president's goal.
With the emergence of offshore wind in the U.S., a lingering question has been in regards to vessel availability. I know there are a broad selection of vessel types involved in every project, cradle to grave, but in broad overview, can you discuss how you see the vessel availability question and discussion?
Generally, I think the vessels are available. I call it the logistics tail, but if you look at the supply chain, it's sort of if you build it, they will come situation, where the key vessels, which are the wind turbine installation vessels, the heavy lift jackup vessels, the cable laying vessels, those vessels are in very limited or no supply in the U.S. There are no Jones Act compliant wind turbine installation vessels yet. There is one under construction, but none yet. So it's key that we get those vessels from the international market to serve our U.S. projects, at least initially, until we build up a Jones Act fleet. But those vessels are at the tip of the spear, the tip of the pyramid. And then as that pyramid spreads out, all those support vessels that need to provide support, both in terms of getting components to those vessels and supplying all of their other logistics needs, those vessels are U.S. flagged, ready to go vessels that we do have a substantial fleet of those vessels available to service those key specialized vessels. So as long as we can secure those key vessels, as I call them, the rest of the vessels will follow and are available.
So I know that bringing an offshore wind farm to life includes a lot of outreach, particularly with local mariners that may be impacted. From where you sit, what are mariners' major concerns about navigating within and around wind farms?
Sure. So their major concerns are normally focused on access to wind farms. They're afraid that they will not have access, but the Coast Guard has made clear in writing that navigation within wind farms will be preserved. And then mariners' concerns are their ability to navigate, provided they have access, and they will. And that's where we provide mitigations and support to ensure that, to the greatest extent possible, mariners can continue to operate within a wind farm to pursue their livelihood, if you will, which in the Northeast primarily is commercial fishing. In the Mid-Atlantic, it's primarily commercial shipping and tug and tow.
So can you clarify what aids to navigation does Ørsted intend to implement to facilitate this safe navigation? And have mariners been involved in this development?
Mariners have been involved because we engage them on a early and frequent basis. And so the aids to navigation that we will bring to bear are not only the lighting and marking and sound signal requirements of the U.S. Coast Guard, but we engaged our mariners to develop a labeling protocol that meets their desires to have each tower uniquely identified, so there's no duplication of identifications in any of the wind farms in the Northeast. So from a mariner's perspective, anytime you're in a wind farm in the Northeast, whether you're in technically an Ørsted wind farm or a Vineyard wind farm or some other developer's wind farm, to the mariner, it will appear that you're in a single wind farm. So with the help of the fishing community, we developed a uniform protocol for marking and labeling all those towers across the entire spectrum of the Northeast. We also have will provide AIS signaling on significant towers to help mariners navigate through that. We'll have VHF coverage. We will have vessels on scene most of the time, maintenance vessels that can assist. So there's plenty of aids to navigation, like I say, to preserve and facilitate navigation safety.
So, Ed, navigating a wind farm in real life is one thing, but as you know, simulation training has become a lot more prevalent within the maritime space. And from what I understand, Ørsted is the only developer in the US to have a full mission ship simulator that create an experience of navigating within the offshore wind farm. Can you take a deeper dive into the simulator program that has been created?
Yeah, I'd love to do that because the simulator program is a real success story, both from Ørsted's perspective and I think from the mariner's perspective as well. So the primary issue that we had, and again, this is with our frequent engagement with mariners, is that the spacing was an issue. They're very concerned about spacing. And in the Northeast, all of our towers are spaced a mile apart, evenly a mile apart. And in the mid-Atlantic, nearly so, all in a uniform grid pattern. But, Greg, your idea in your head of 1 mile apart is different than my idea of a mile apart, is different than someone else's idea of a mile apart. And so what we did was we created what's called a simulated wind farm and a full mission simulator. So you walk into a vessel bridge mock-up. It looks like a vessel bridge, but you are completely surrounded by video. And that video is an offshore wind farm with the towers exactly replicated of the towers that we're going to use exactly at 1 mile. And so our primary goal is to provide some sense of spatial awareness to mariners. So we bring groups of mariners in, and we've had dozens of groups in, and we just try to give them a sense of what 1 mile feels like. And then there are a number of environmental controls that are controlled by the mariner in our simulator. So if Greg is used to operating in heavy seas, Greg can say, I'd like to see heavy seas, and we can produce heavy seas and rain and wind and darkness and all of the other environmentals that you can think of to really provide as near a real life experience as possible in a simulated environment. So, so for mariners who may have some fears about operating, this really helps reduce their fear. And without exception, there's not a single person that has gone into this simulator and experienced it and left saying, I'm more concerned about navigating, now than I was before. Now, it is really an invaluable tool, like I say, to convey spatial awareness and to reduce fear about navigating in a wind farm. So we have 3 simulators in the United States that we use for this purpose.
So you have 3 simulators. So are they your own run, or where are they located?
Great question. So they are simulators that we own the software, we own the video, but we use the facilities at MyTags outside of Baltimore, the Maritime Institute of Technology and Graduate Studies. We use the facility at USMRC in Middletown, Rhode Island, the United States Maritime Resource Center. And we use the simulator rather. We use the simulator at SUNY Maritime, the SUNY Maritime College in the Bronx.
I understand that Ørsted proposed a navigation safety and training fund to support mariners who were impacted by offshore wind. How exactly will that program work?
So again, listening to the mariners, and particularly listening to them in the simulator as they're talking amongst each other. And some of these people know each other, some of those people don't. But what we heard was that they would be comfortable navigating in a wind farm if they either had better tools or better training for their crew. So that was a recurring feedback that we were receiving. So we decided to create this fund, which is still in the conceptual stage. Exactly how it'll be administered, we're working through those details. But so we created this fund, which will subsidize upgrades to a mariner's equipment. So if you've got an old, magnetron radar that you want to upgrade to the newer pulse compression type radar, which mariners in the simulator rave about, perhaps Ørsted could assist you in upgrading that radar, or any other type of navigation equipment that you might feel is necessary to help you navigate in a wind farm. And if you feel your crew needs some training, we can make some training available to your crew, or we will subsidize paying for that training to get your crew proficient so that you, as the master of a vessel, feel comfortable navigating in a wind farm.
Okay, well, Ed, there's certainly exciting times here for offshore wind in the United States, and Ørsted is certainly at the tip of that spear. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to working with you and your team going forward.
Thank you. Keep in touch, and the offer to visit any or all of our simulators is always open.